Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another Oddballs Behind the Scenes. Thank you so much for watching the show. Those of you who've seen it, the response has been incredible. We've been in the top 10 around the world. And at one point last week, we were the #1 kid show in the world. So you guys have all come out to check out the show and support the show. And we are not surprised because everyone knows James's fans are amazing. So thank you for checking out the show and doing the scavenger hunt, downloading those free GIFs and backgrounds like this one here, and putting them out there because they're fun and we love that you enjoy the show so much. And all the fan art that's coming in, oh my gosh, you guys, amazing. So why am I sitting here talking while James is making a face on screen? Well, that's simply because I'm here to talk about James's amazing performances on the show. There's been some haters out there talking about how James isn't a professional voiceover artist. I can tell you, I've worked with a lot of voiceover artists, and James rose to the occasion on this show. He proved that he has what it takes, and he is truly an exceptionally talented voiceover actor. And any of the cast would tell you just as much because he rolled with some of the best on this show. Gary Anthony Williams, Kim, Julian, like everybody just knocking it out of the park, and James did it as well. James likes to get into character. As you can see here, he's trying to get into character and talk about how bad cutting is in line. And hey, nobody likes a line cutter, right?
Cutters, the lowest form of low. Honestly, if you ever catch me cutting, never talk to me again.
What? No! Talking's how we talk!
True. Cutting is a crime against civilized society, Max. Anyone who does it should be ousted, shunned, banned. Each and every cutter is an animal. No offense.
So I love this clip just because it shows not only the commitment that James makes as he morphs his face into that expression, but also how that translates into the animation. One of my other favorite things that James will do if we ever need him to make a gargling sound, like he's drowning or something like that, he will literally drink water and gargle, and it will fly all over the place and all over his shirt. So he really, really commits to the bit, and so much so that we have that moment in Toasty where he basically has to put an end to Toasty because he's acted out so much and can't be saved. And we needed him to really get into that space. So James actually told the story at Comic-Con where our casting director, Gene Vassaleros, was trying to get him into that space and could see that that was kind of the one weak point to James's acting, was going into that really vulnerable space. And he noticed that Floof, everybody knows Floof, was around and how much James loves Floof. So he basically said to him, like, just envision that, you're something bad has happened to Floof. Floof has been hit by a car and you're holding her in your arms and she may pass away. And it was super intense, right? And it was like, oh my gosh, what's going to happen here? And James just like, boom, just went into it and just got to that emotion, and then was able to then spin that into some comedy with that great no that he cries to the heavens. But had we not have a great voice director with an actor like James who proved that he can actually go to those places, we never would have had that moment manifest so dramatically as it does in that place. And the great thing about James is he's able to walk this line between kind of absurd and really grounded and real. And you'll see it throughout the show. So I highly recommend, going through and watching with that lens of James kind of rising to the occasion. You'll see as he goes through the series how he just brings more and more and more to the characters, kind of like they all do. But let's have a look at this clip again, just because there's some specific things in the production that I wanted to talk about. So, okay, old lady standing there with the cane. There is a scene here where the guys in Echo get kicked out of the line, and then they try to cut their way back in. James says, of course, reinserting, which is a great line that the writer Darren Henry came up with for this bit. And the old lady at this point says, "Try it and die, doughboy," and puts her cane down. In the original, that cane actually had a sword inside, and she was going to literally poke him, stab him with the sword threateningly. if he wanted to cut in the line. So, but to the point that I made earlier, if you look at James's face here and his face here, you can see how much they match up in that way in the expression. So the team did a really, really great job of maintaining that stuff.
Cutters, the lowest form of low. Honestly, if you ever catch me cutting, never talk to me again.
This was actually one of my favorite rants to write. I read a lot of the rants drafts on the show. I guess I'm just a ranty guy, but I was trying to think of things that kids and people in general would relate to. And I think line cutting is one of the earliest things that we learn that is not okay. And that it's kind of like something we shame people for when they cut us in line. And then as adults, it kind of carries through. And a lot of times we'll call people out, and some of us will get a little insecure about calling people out. So it kind of evolves into something much different. But in the end, we all hate line cutters, people who just won't wait their turn in line to get what we've been putting in the time and effort to get. So this is just such a great, thing for James to let out his frustration about line cutters that clearly has not been resolved and is going to get resolved in this episode.
What? No! Talking's how we talk.
And of course, Max. This is yet another fun special pose for Max, where literally his O mouth has his teeth kind of like coming in like a circle, as if your teeth kind of change with your mouth making different shapes, which of course it doesn't. But this is Max. He's extreme. He's elastic. He does all sorts of positions. And here, of course, he's got the glow of being sad.
True. Cutting is a crime against civilized society, Max. Anyone who does it should be ousted, shunned, banned. Each and every cutter is an animal.
Which, of course, this pose here is just one of, the many of James's that is so incredible, which really takes James's delivery to a whole other level, because we wanted to kind of paint, sometimes we're not able to get across in the voiceover, in the dialogue, exactly how intense we want this thing to come across. So that's where in live action, it would be color correction, lighting, editing, sound editing, things like that. In this case, we of course have the sound editing, and we have color and composition and kind of vignettes and things of that sort that we can add later on. But the team from the board team through animation and of course comp wanted to really make this up as showing how intense of a thing this was to James for the line cutting, because he needs to be in that space to kind of doubt Echo going forward. And of course, everybody doubts a cutter who says somebody was holding their place in line, right? And another good Max realistic pose. He, as you'll see through all the different episodes, he grows and grows into different things, and they mix and match. And sometimes in Pillow Fight Club, he'll be full kind of, roided out Gator Mega Max, but still have his tiny little head and his little traditional voice.
No offense.
And of course, James at the end, it's his best friend. He's not going to hate on him for that. So that's a bit more about James and his acting chops. And I tell you that you should all really, really watch through the episodes. Wanted Dead or a Fly is incredible with making all sorts of excuses and blood excuse, and having to become an old person and blood excuse when he drains all the blood from his body. Like there's just a million different levels, and also just to kind of go to that space too, where he can be best friends and having a good time with Max, but then get so caught up in something like in emo, like the wolf stank in the competition, where he kind of fools himself into thinking that it's for Max, but of course he's doing it for himself. So that's a bit more about James. I hope you guys are all enjoying the show, and please, hit us up in the comments. I'll answer any questions you have, and I can answer questions going forward in some of the other videos. Coming up next, of course, we have Julian, who plays Max, and I'll go over some of the other clips that we've shared from the show to kind of give you some background and insight in that, and even pull up some original boards to show you, how far they come from one way to another.